Welcome to our webinar on the Fairfax County Deer Management Program. My name is Catherine Edwards, and I'm the Wildlife Management Specialist with the Fairfax County Police Department. Today I'll be presenting an overview of the Deer Management Program, but I'd like to take a moment to recognize my colleague, Sergeant Eric Powell with the Fairfax County Animal Protection Police, for his assistance in managing this program. During this webinar, I'll provide information on the reasons for deer management within Fairfax County, the management methods that are used for population control, program protocols and safety measures, data collection and monitoring efforts, and deer harvest summaries. Active deer management is often necessary to maintain deer populations at optimum levels to meet the needs of residents within the Commonwealth. The Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources, also known as the DWR, is the state wildlife agency that sets the regulatory framework for deer management within the Commonwealth. The DWR has developed the Virginia Deer Management Plan, which provides the framework for population management, recreation, damage management, and habitat conservation related to white-tailed deer within Virginia. This plan identifies areas that should be managed to either increase deer, decrease deer, or keep populations at the same level, and it's based on involvement with various stakeholders, including professionals with technical expertise in deer biology and deer management. The figure and statement shown on this slide are from the current Virginia Deer Management Plan that is administered by the DWR. The population objectives that are outlined in this plan are set to balance the needs of a diverse human community and also to protect ecosystem integrity and biodiversity within the Commonwealth. As you can see in this figure, Fairfax County is identified as an area for deer herd reduction. To address these goals, hunting is the preferred population management method where appropriate and feasible. While the DWR has oversight of deer management in Virginia, localities have the ability to adopt and implement deer management programs under the DWR's purview to address concerns related to overabundant deer at the local level. In 1998, the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors mandated development of the Fairfax County Deer Management Program in response to concerns of county residents about the growing number of deer and conflicts posed by overabundant deer. The Fairfax County Deer Management Program has been ongoing for over 20 years. The Fairfax County Deer Management Program is operated primarily on county-owned properties and is implemented by the Fairfax County Police Department in collaboration with the Fairfax County Park Authority, Nova Parks, and other public landowners within the county. Over the years, the deer population in Fairfax County has grown to a level that poses safety and health hazards in our communities and is not sustainable by the environment over time. The goal of the Deer Management Program is to reduce the current deer population to more sustainable levels to minimize impacts for residents and wildlife alike. Serious public safety concerns are associated with a high number of deer vehicle collisions that occur annually in Virginia and here in Fairfax County. Virginia is considered a high-risk state for deer vehicle collisions. According to a 2021 State Farm report, Virginia ranks 15th in the nation for the likelihood of drivers being involved in a collision with a deer. The likelihood of having an insurance claim involving a deer was 1 in 75 for Virginia drivers. Dense deer populations are inferred to be one of the principal factors in the increase of ticks in many urban environments. This has led to public concern over disease transmission, especially related to Lyme disease. The Lyme disease cycle is complex and includes multiple wildlife hosts, including mice, chipmunks, shrews, birds, and deer. Adult ticks feed and mate primarily on deer, but the deer themselves do not serve as a source of infection for the Lyme disease bacterium. The presence of deer has been correlated with tick populations to variable degrees, and some research studies have found that a reduction of deer populations to very low thresholds may reduce tick abundance. However, the relationship between deer populations and the incidence of Lyme disease remains unclear. Although this relationship is unclear, there is still public concern that dense deer populations may increase human risk of exposure to ticks by moving them to new areas, and concern over the role that deer play in maintaining tick populations. To address these concerns, the county conducted a 3-year pilot study from 2012 to 2015 to test the use of a 4-poster deer treatment station technology as a novel method of controlling tick infestations on white-tailed deer. This research was conducted by the Fairfax County Wildlife Management Office in collaboration with the Health Department's Disease Carrying Insects program. A four-poster deer treatment station is a feeding station that uses corn to bait deer and then treat the deer with a pesticide to kill ticks while they feed at the station. Based on our study's results, further implementation of four-poster stations in Fairfax County was not recommended. More detailed information about this research and its findings can be found on the Fairfax County webpage listed on this slide. Spread of diseases within the deer herd is also a concern. Diseases are transmitted more readily when deer densities are high. A key concern is the potential for spread of chronic wasting disease in free-ranging deer in Virginia. Chronic wasting disease, known as CWD, is an infectious neurological disease found in deer, elk, and moose in North America. This disease is caused by abnormal infectious proteins called prions, which can be passed between deer through saliva, feces, and urine, and through water or soil that are contaminated with prions. CWD is 100% fatal to affected animals, and there is no vaccine to prevent infection and no known treatment for infected animals. CWD is a slow-acting and progressive disease. Clinical signs of CWD typically do not develop for several months to over a year after exposure and include staggering, abnormal posture, lowered head, drooling, confusion, and marked weight loss. CWD was first identified in captive deer in the late 1960s in Colorado and in wild deer in 1981. CWD has since been detected in 30 states, including Virginia, and 4 Canadian provinces. The first case in Virginia was documented in 2009, and a total of 134 deer from 11 counties have tested positive in Virginia since that time. The Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources is responsible for CWD surveillance and management within the Commonwealth and has put measures in place to try and limit its spread among deer populations and into new areas. This has included the designation of 3 disease management areas, known as DMAs, liberalized hunting seasons, restrictions on carcass transport, deer feeding bans, deer rehabilitation restrictions, and mandatory check stations for deer harvested within DMAs, among other actions. Within the past few years, CWD-positive deer have been confirmed in nearby localities, including Loudoun, Fauquier, and Culpeper counties. CWD has not been confirmed in Fairfax County at this time, but there is high concern by wildlife biologists over the potential spread of this disease to new areas. Deer herd reduction, conducted primarily through hunting, is necessary to lower the deer population densities to prevent or slow the spread of chronic wasting disease. Overabundant deer can have a negative impact on forested habitat. Overbrowsing by deer can degrade forest composition and structure with lasting impacts. In many areas within Fairfax County, we see little to no regeneration of trees due to consumption of seedlings and saplings by deer. We see forests that are simplified with the removal of understory and shrub layers by deer, and seed banks which are depleted and will not be replenished over time. Overbrowsing on native vegetation also leaves an open canvas for the establishment of non-native invasive plants to take over many of our forested habitats. An overabundant deer population can degrade habitat for numerous other species as well. While healthy forests include deer, they also include many other species of insects, plants, and other wildlife that have evolved as a part of our local biodiversity and depend on these habitats. The Fairfax County Deer Management Program was developed based on national best practices for deer management, wildlife management program models in other jurisdictions, deer census data, environmental impact studies, and peer-reviewed scientific literature. The Fairfax County Deer Management Program uses methods that are currently approved for deer population reduction by the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources. These include the use of archery, managed hunting, and sharpshooting. We also consult with county residents on the use of humane exclusion and other repellency measures to address deer damage and conflicts on private property. Archery is the primary management method used in Fairfax County for deer herd reduction. Archery was approved for deer management by the Board of Supervisors in 2000, but was not fully implemented until fiscal year 2010. The archery program is operated on public lands, primarily within county parks. Currently, the archery program includes approximately 100 properties, or about 80 to 90% of the county park land holdings. Parks remain fully open to the public while archery is conducted due to strict safety protocols that are put in place to allow for continued recreation. The archery program is conducted annually between September and February. The dates for the upcoming season are September 10th through February 18th. Hunting is allowed within approved parks Monday through Saturday. No hunting is allowed on county parkland on Sundays. Legal hunting hours are set by the DWR and are 30 minutes prior to sunrise, extending throughout the day until 30 minutes past sunset. The deer management program has an exceptional safety record, and there have been 0 safety incidents since the program began. Hunters are required to go through a special screening process and qualifications to be eligible for the Fairfax County Archery Program. Archers must pass a criminal background check conducted by the Fairfax County Police Department. Disqualifying convictions include, but are not limited to, any type of child exploitation violation, domestic violence, weapons charges, game violations, animal cruelty, or any felony. All archers must be in compliance with game licensing and general hunter safety education requirements as specified by the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources. This includes having a valid Virginia hunting license, Virginia deer turkey license, and Virginia archery license. Archers in our program are also required to complete additional training above what is mandated by the state, including a course through the International Bowhunter Education Program. This course is administered by the National Bowhunter Education Foundation in cooperation with the DWR and provides more in-depth training about safe and responsible bow hunting practices. All archers are required to pass qualifications with their bows to participate in the Fairfax County program and must adhere to ethical standards in order to be a part of the program. Hunting within county parks can only be conducted by archers that have gone through the special screening and selection process. Hunting by the general public in county parks is prohibited. Archers that are selected for the program are assigned to a specific park cluster, and this is overseen by one or more group leaders who act as liaisons between the hunt group and program managers with the Fairfax County Police Department. Each cluster generally contains several parks, and archers are only allowed to hunt within the parks of their assigned cluster. Archers are responsible for regular contact with their group leader and the deer program manager with the Fairfax County Police Department. Archers are required to maintain detailed logs each time they're on an approved park property. This includes recording the date, start and end times of each hunt, number of deer observed, shots taken, deer shot and retrieved, and biological information about the deer. This information is entered into an electronic database, which is monitored daily by the archery group leaders and program managers with the Fairfax County Police Department. Any activities that deviate from normal protocol must be reported immediately using an incident report form. Incident reports are required to be filed for any non-retrieved deer, lost archery tackle, signs of poaching that are observed, hunter injury, theft or damage to equipment, or hunter harassment. Persons that violate these rules will face disciplinary actions and may be removed from the program. Archery activities are conducted according to strict protocol. All hunting is conducted from elevated tree stands, which allow the hunter to engage the deer from above. This elevated position gives the hunters a clear vantage point of the ground below, and the resulting downward trajectory of the arrow means that the ground acts as a natural backstop. Additionally, archery tackle is only effective at short range, which means that the hunter is close to the target, allowing for clear views and easy identification of the deer. Archers must identify the deer with 100% certainty and may not take shots at moving animals. Our county program places distance restrictions on hunting near property lines and trails. Placement of tree stands and hunting is not permitted within 100 feet of a property line and 50 feet from an established park trail. While archers are on the ground, their arrows and bolts will be quivered, and hunting from the ground level is strictly prohibited in any park. Archers may also not enter private property without permission by the owner or tenant. The deer management program is designed as a deer reduction program. The archery program operates under a deer population control permit called a DPOP permit, which is issued by the DWR and allows public landowners to use deer hunters to harvest extra antlerless deer outside of traditional seasons. The archery program also adheres to Earn a Buck, which is a regulation set by the DWR and is designed to control deer populations by increasing the antlerless deer harvest. Hunters are required to notch a deer tag, either a DPOP tag or a personal tag, before moving a deer. DPOP tags are provided by the program and can only be used for antlerless deer. Hunters must use personal tags for antlered deer that are harvested in the program, and all hunters must comply with the bag limits that are set by the DWR. Deer must be removed from public view before field dressing, and archers are required to cover deer completely while transporting. When on site, hunters are required to have several items. Each hunter is issued a unique ID number from the police department and an identification card and lanyard for the program. This archery program ID must be worn on the outside of clothing anytime a hunter is entering and exiting the park, or during any scouting or tracking activity, or setting up or taking down equipment. All equipment and archery tackle must also be labeled with their personal ID number, including all arrows, tree stands, and game and trail cameras. Hunters are also issued a parking tag with their ID number that's to be hung on the rearview mirror of their vehicle when on site. They must also keep a copy of the DPOP permit in their glove box. Fluorescent orange signs are used to notify park patrons of the archery program in progress. Archery program signs, shown here on the left and center, are posted at park entrances and trailheads. Hunters are only allowed to park in specific locations that are labeled with authorized parking signs, shown here on the right. I want to switch gears at this time and now talk about our second management method, which is the use of public managed hunts. Managed hunts are public firearms hunts using qualified volunteer hunters. These hunts are similar to the archery program in that the hunters go through a special screening and selection process and qualifications in order to be eligible for the program. Managed hunts are only conducted in specific areas of the county due to firearms restrictions. Hunting is only permitted in designated hunt areas and is also conducted from elevated tree stands. Most recently, these hunts were conducted in the Sully Woodlands area within the Sully District. During these hunts, the areas are secured by Fairfax County Police personnel, and these hunts also operate under a deer population control permit or a DPOP permit similar to the archery program. All hunters are required to check in and out with assigned police personnel, and all the deer that are harvested must be taken to a designated check station for data collection. The third method of deer population control used in Fairfax County is the use of sharpshooting. Nighttime sharpshooting operations are conducted by the Fairfax County Police Department at select parks when parks are closed to the public. These operations involve systematic culling of deer by trained police officers and are conducted under a special kill permit authorized by the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources. Sharpshooting is conducted during the fall and winter between November and March at a small number of parks. All sharpshooting is conducted from an elevated, static position over bait. Night vision equipment, thermal imaging, and suppressed firearms are used to expedite field procedures and ensure discreet operations. Camera stations are also set up at each location to monitor the deer herd throughout the operations. County staff and uniformed public safety officers are present at parking lots and trailheads on nights when sharpshooting is conducted in order to inform park patrons of the deer management activity occurring and to prevent unauthorized access into the park as a safety measure. All deer that are harvested from sharpshooting are donated for food, including Hunters for the Hungry or other local food banks. The protocols that are used for sharpshooting were developed to align with the American Veterinary Medical Association standards for humane euthanasia for free-ranging wildlife. Information about the county's deer management program is provided to residents through various means. We mail notification letters to property owners that immediately border approved park locations. We typically conduct in-person public information meetings to provide this overview of the program, but have switched to the virtual format due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, we present information to HOAs and civic associations at their request. As I mentioned previously, all park entrances and trails in the approved parks have posted deer management signs indicating that the archery program is in progress. We've also issued numerous press releases and videos related to deer management through the Fairfax County Newswire, the Fairfax County Police Department's blog, Office of Public Affairs, Channel 16, the Fairfax County YouTube channel, and through local papers and social media. Information including the program standards and locations can also be found on the Fairfax County Deer Management Program website. Over the past several years, our staff have increased efforts to collect, monitor, and evaluate data related to the impacts of overabundant deer in Fairfax County. Deer vehicle collisions, referred to as DVCs, are the primary cause of deer deaths in suburban areas without other lethal control. Staff are attempting to collect and analyze multiple sources of DVC data in order to determine whether collisions involving deer are decreasing countywide and to identify locations of DVC hotspots. However, accurate DVC data is very difficult to obtain and analysis is still ongoing. Most jurisdictions rely on police records, which often grossly underrepresent the number of collisions involving deer because not all collisions are reportable incidents in terms of traffic records. Reportable crashes in Fairfax County include police reports through the Traffic Records Electronic Data System, known as TREDS. These reportable crashes include accidents that result in injury or fatality or property damage exceeding $1,500. A 2017 study by the Virginia Transportation Research Council found that DVCs may actually be 8.5 times higher than those reported by police departments. Many crashes are reported solely to insurance companies if they're minor. However, insurance data are not accessible to county staff. Statewide numbers are available to VDOT, but insurance companies do not provide the location data for these crashes. VDOT maintains records for animal carcass pickups along state-maintained roads, but these data have not been systematically collected and are very cumbersome to analyze. We're attempting to estimate the number of VDOT work orders for deer carcass pickups and locations for these DVCs within Fairfax County. And also, not all deer that are hit by vehicles die at the roadway. Studies estimate that only 25% of deer that are hit by cars actually die at the roadside. Others may venture elsewhere to expire, or some may survive. So these numbers represent a minimum number that are hit by cars in Fairfax County. Collisions in Fairfax County have resulted in injury and fatality of residents and have also contributed to extensive property damage. According to police records from TREDS, an average of 104 deer vehicle collisions have been reported annually in Fairfax County since 2010. These numbers have ranged between 75 and 120 deer vehicle collisions a year during that time frame. Overall, we see a declining trend in the number of reportable deer vehicle collisions countywide. DVCs peaked from 2005 to 2007 and then began to decrease in 2008. However, the number of collisions has fluctuated over the years. We've not conducted statistical analyses on these data at this time, and it's not possible to draw inferences or make assumptions about the deer management program simply based on these numbers. We know that deer are not the only factor involved in crashes, and crashes could be impacted by numerous other factors that are not correlated with deer population size and density. However, the declining trend in the number of reportable deer vehicle collisions occurring countywide is encouraging. We occasionally receive questions whether archery hunting within the parks may be contributing to deer vehicle collisions within Fairfax County. To address these concerns, we've further analyzed the DVC data in terms of when they're occurring by month, time of day, and day of the week in order to examine them in relation to the deer management program. In terms of DVCs by month, we see notable increases in collisions occurring during the months of October and November. These data correlate with statewide trends in DVCs as reported by insurance companies. These trends are associated with deer movement patterns during the fall that are related to the breeding season and also seasonal changes in preferred forage, including acorns. In terms of time of day, the majority of collisions occurred from dusk to dawn, which coincide with peak deer activity times. We see notable spikes in DVCs occurring during night and early morning hours, with the majority of them happening outside of legal hunting hours, indicating that hunting is not responsible for the spike in collisions. We see no observable differences in DVCs by day of the week. Hunting pressure is typically highest on Saturdays, so a spike in DVCs would be expected on Saturdays if hunting were responsible for the increase in deer vehicle collisions. However, this pattern was not observed. Similarly, hunting is not permitted on Sundays in county parks within the deer management program, and we would expect to see a decrease in DVCs on Sundays if these collisions were related to hunting. However, this pattern was also not observed. We've rolled out a plan to collect additional monitoring data to better inform management strategies, including browse surveys and deer density surveys. The Fairfax County Park Authority conducts browse impact surveys to measure the impact of the deer herd on native plant communities at fixed locations within a park. In order to measure the impacts of deer browse, ecologists use a simple plot and scoring system shown here. They establish a circular plot in the woods and analyze the native woody vegetation between 6 inches and 6 feet in height within that plot. Based on the browse intensity that's observed, each plot receives a score between 1 and 5. A score of 1 indicates that no browse damage was observed, ranging to a score of 5 in which plants are severely browsed. At levels 4 and 5, we are seeing significant impacts to park vegetation, especially to regeneration. The Fairfax County Park Authority has established 542 permanent plots throughout parks in the program, where park ecologists measure deer browse impacts to native woody vegetation. Plots will be resampled at 4-year intervals to evaluate deer browse impacts over time. Typically, it takes many years of sustained management to see vegetation recovery, but we have seen improvements in forest condition in parks that have had multiple consecutive years of deer management. Camera surveys are a common technique used to estimate deer populations. We conduct deer density surveys in parks throughout the county to estimate the local deer population and to monitor deer population trends over time. We use a standardized approach based on Jacobson et al. 1997 that includes the use of infrared triggered cameras to estimate deer at a bait station. These camera surveys provide an estimate of deer and a snapshot of the deer density in an individual park. They do not represent a complete census or an exact number of deer, and results of the study are not used to set bag limits in individual parks. The camera surveys are conducted on county parkland in late summer due to various biological and regulatory considerations. Each survey is run over a 3-week period. Photographs are collected during that time and analyzed to calculate estimates of the deer population and population characteristics of the deer herd, including sex ratios and fawn crop. The camera surveys are conducted in July and August prior to the deer season to be in accordance with state game regulations. Surveys are conducted after the fawning season, but prior to the time of year when male deer shed their antlers so that we can get a better representation of deer population structure. State regulations now prohibit the feeding of deer year-round in Fairfax County due to regulations pertaining to CWD management. These surveys now require special authorization by the DWR to allow the use of bait during this time frame as a part of deer management program monitoring. These are some of the representative photos from our camera surveys over the years. These surveys typically represent a minimum estimate of the number of deer using parks during late summer. Again, these surveys are used to provide an estimate of the deer population and allow comparison of the deer herd over time. As with any survey method, the results of the survey can be influenced by multiple factors, including the time of year that the survey is conducted, movement of deer into and out of the local population, the attractiveness of bait relative to native forage, camera density, site selection, and the length of the survey period, as well as weather. County staff are taking a proactive approach to conduct surveillance for chronic wasting disease due to the potential impacts that this fatal neurological disease could pose for deer populations in Fairfax County in the future. Staff are trained by DWR personnel and follow agency guidelines for the sampling of deer and testing for CWD. Medial retropharyngeal lymph node samples are collected from a subset of deer harvested on parkland through the county program. Only yearling and adult deer are tested. No fawns are submitted for testing per DWR guidelines. Samples are submitted to the Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnostics Laboratory for CWD testing through partnership with the DWR. All results to date have come back as CWD being not detected. All results are reported to the DWR State Wildlife Veterinarian and Wildlife Disease Biologist. Our staff are planning to increase sampling of deer harvested in the county program for CWD surveillance in the upcoming season in coordination with the DWR. Over the past 3 years, staff have collected samples for CWD testing from 458 deer harvested through the county's deer management program. A total of 99 deer were sampled in fiscal year 2020 from 21 parks. In fiscal year 2021, 134 deer were sampled and tested for CWD, including deer harvested in 55 parks and 2 deer that were dispatched by the Animal Protection Police. Last season, 225 deer from 72 parks were tested. Hunter submissions from the archery program represented the majority of samples collected. Results for all of the deer submitted to date have come back as CWD not detected. Staff will be continuing surveillance efforts for chronic wasting disease in the upcoming deer season to sample and test a greater number of deer through the county program. The feeding of deer in Fairfax County is now prohibited year-round in accordance with state wildlife regulations. Feeding of deer is prohibited in any county designated by the DWR within 25 miles of a confirmed detection of chronic wasting disease. Although CWD has not been detected in Fairfax County at this time, the year-round feeding ban was extended to Fairfax County due to the proximity of CWD-positive deer confirmed within Fauquier and Loudoun counties. The feeding ban restricts the placement of or distribution of any food, salt, mineral, or similar substances for any purpose if the placement of these materials results in the attraction of and/or feeding of deer. This does not restrict bona fide agronomic plantings, including wildlife food plots, bona fide distribution of food to livestock, or wildlife management activities conducted or authorized by the DWR. The feeding ban in Fairfax County applies to both public lands and private properties. Here we've provided a summary of the deer program harvest from archery and sharpshooting last season. The total program harvest for the fiscal year 2022 deer management program was 775 deer. Of those, 726 deer were harvested in the archery program, and 49 deer were taken through police sharpshooting efforts. The non-recovery rate for the deer management program was 9.6%. Here are additional summary statistics related to last year's deer management program. Archery continues to be the primary management method used in Fairfax County. 94% of the total deer harvested last season were through the archery program. Sharpshooting contributed to 6% of the deer harvested. The percentage of antlerless harvest was over 67% for each management method. We've included additional data related to the archery program here. On the left, you'll see a graph for park visitations by hunters. There is a common misperception with the program that hunters are in the parks all day, every day throughout the program and are taking deer during each visit. What we see is that 68% of park visitations involve visits where hunters are actively hunting but result in no deer being harvested. 26% of visits to parks were non-hunting visits, including scouting, moving equipment, and other program-related activities, but not active hunting. And 6% of the visits were active hunts that resulted in a hunter harvesting a deer. In the middle, you'll see a graph that breaks down the harvest by type of deer. In terms of harvests, approximately 68% of the harvests were antlerless deer, which include female deer, button bucks, which are male fawns, and bucks that have shed their antlers. Over 58% of these harvests were does. 32% of the harvests were antlered bucks, and as previously mentioned, hunters are required to use their own personal tags for taking antlered deer in the program. On the right, we also have a graph showing the disposition of deer. All deer that are taken in the archery program are either used by the hunters themselves or donated for food. About 71% of the deer are kept by hunters, 17% are donated to family and friends, 10% are donated to Hunters for the Hungry, and 2% are donated to park neighbors. As mentioned, deer harvested in the county program are donated to food banks and charitable organizations, as well as family, friends, park neighbors, and others. The graph and table shown here include the number of deer donated to Hunters for the Hungry and other donations over the past 6 years. These include deer that were harvested through the county's archery program, managed hunts, and sharpshooting efforts. 1,899 deer that were harvested through the county's deer management program have been donated for food over the past 6 years. This equates to a conservative estimate of 57,000 pounds of venison donated to support those in need. The graph shown here depicts the deer harvest totals since the deer management program's inception and the contribution of each management method used for deer herd reduction. Approximately 15,000 deer have been harvested through the county's deer management program. Harvests have increased substantially following the addition and expansion of the archery program in fiscal year 2010. Archery has since contributed to 82% of the total deer harvests over the past 13 years. Harvests have declined slightly over the past few years, which is likely due to multiple factors, including weather events, hunter effort, deer density, and changes in park use and public outdoor recreation following the COVID-19 pandemic. A list of the upcoming changes to the deer management program for next season are provided here. New park additions for the archery program include Country Clubview Park and Fairfax Villa Park in the Braddock District, Groveton Heights Park, Loisdale Park, and Ridgeview Park in the Lee District, and Gristmill Park, Paul Springs Stream Valley, Kirk Park, and Pole Road Park in the Mount Vernon District. No managed shotgun hunts will be conducted during fiscal year 2023. Meadowlark Botanical Gardens in the Hunter Mill District will be added to the county's sharpshooting program. The list of parks included for sharpshooting is seen here, and these parks have all been included in the sharpshooting program in prior years. If you have any questions or concerns about the Fairfax County Deer Management Program, we encourage you to contact our staff listed here. For additional information, you can also visit the Deer Management Program website.